think that Whitaker is a terrific fighter. They sing his praises. Wonderful, wonderful, and yet again, wonderful.
Sweet Pea had a bitter side that the boxing world rarely talks about. Pernell Whitaker, the defensive wizard from Norfolk, Virginia, wasn't just slick with his hands. He was razor-sharp with his tongue and harbored grudges that lasted decades. Behind that beautiful, elusive boxing style was a fighter who collected enemies like championship belts. You think you know the story of Sweet Pea Whitaker? Think again. This wasn't just some humble technician who danced around the ring. This was a man who feuded with fellow legends, sparked controversies that split the boxing community, and allegedly held grudges that burned hotter than a Virginia summer. From training camp betrayals to robbery decisions that still have fans arguing today, Whitaker's career was defined as much by who he hated as who he defeated. The boxing establishment doesn't want you to know about the real Pernell Whitaker. The one who threw verbal bombs as precisely as he threw punches. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on boxing's most guarded secrets. We're counting down the 6 fighters that Sweet Pea supposedly despised the most. And trust me, some of these revelations will shock you. These weren't just professional rivalries. These were personal wars that threatened to tear the sport apart. 6. Buddy McGirt. Coming in at number 6 is a rivalry that most boxing fans have never heard about. But insiders swear it was real. Buddy McGirt, the crafty southpaw from Long Island who allegedly turned Whitaker's own training camp into a war zone. Here's what supposedly went down behind closed doors. McGirt and Whitaker were sparring partners in the late 80s, grinding it out in Norfolk's toughest gyms. But according to sources close to the situation, these weren't friendly tune-up sessions. They were bloody battles that had trainers scrambling to separate them. McGirt, already a seasoned professional, allegedly took liberties with the younger Whitaker during sparring, targeting his body with vicious shots that crossed the line between preparation and punishment. The breaking point supposedly came during a particularly heated session when McGirt allegedly told Whitaker he was too pretty to be a real fighter, and that his defensive style was coward boxing. Whitaker, never one to back down from verbal warfare, reportedly fired back that McGirt was a jealous has-been who'd never accomplish what I already have. What made this feud particularly bitter was the professional jealousy element. McGirt was struggling to break through as a contender, while Whitaker was already being hailed as the next big thing. Training camp sources claim Whitaker would purposely embarrass McGirt during sparring sessions, making him look foolish with his slick defensive movement. The animosity allegedly lasted years, with both fighters taking subtle shots at each other in interviews whenever the other's name came up. 5. Hector Kamacho. At number 5, we dive into one of boxing's most explosive personality clashes. Hector Macho Kamacho, the flamboyant Puerto Rican speedster who allegedly drove Whitaker absolutely insane with his showboating antics and disrespectful mouth. This wasn't just about boxing styles. This was pure ego warfare between two of the sport's most gifted athletes. Kamacho, with his outrageous entrances and non-stop trash talk, represented everything Whitaker supposedly despised about modern boxing. Sources from HBO's boxing coverage claim that during a 1989 backstage encounter at Madison Square Garden, Kamacho allegedly mocked Whitaker's Virginia accent and called him a country boy trying to play in the big leagues. Whitaker's response was reportedly ice-cold and devastating. He allegedly told Kamacho that all that dancing and prancing won't save you when you face a real boxer, not these tomato cans you've been beating up. The tension was so thick that security had to step between them before things got physical. What really fueled this bitter rivalry was the regional pride element. Camacho had New York's massive Puerto Rican fan base behind him, while Whitaker represented the gritty, no-nonsense Virginia boxing scene. Promotional insiders claim both fighters actively avoided each other at boxing events, with Whitaker allegedly refusing to appear on any card that featured Camacho. The most damaging shot came when Camacho supposedly told a reporter that Whitaker's defensive style was boring television and that he fought like he was scared to get hit. Whitaker never publicly responded, but gym sources say he spent months obsessing over ways to make Kamacho pay for those words. 4. Julio Cesar Chavez. Number 4 takes us to boxing's most controversial draw, Julio Cesar Chavez, the Mexican legend whose 1993 encounter with Whitaker created a grudge that allegedly consumed Sweet Pea for the rest of his career. September 10th, 1993, at the Alamodome in San Antonio. Whitaker put on a defensive masterclass against the seemingly invincible Chavez, outboxing the Mexican warrior for 12 rounds. Then came the scorecards: 115 to 115, 115 to 113 Whitaker, 115 to 113 Chavez. A majority draw that sent shockwaves through the boxing world. According to ringside sources, Whitaker's immediate reaction was pure fury. He allegedly screamed at the judges, "You just robbed me in front of the whole world!" The decision was so controversial that even Chavez's own trainer supposedly admitted privately that Whitaker had won clearly. What made this feud particularly bitter was Chavez's post-fight comments. The Mexican icon allegedly told Spanish-language media that Whitaker was a runner, not a fighter, and that real champions don't dance around the ring. Whitaker, fluent in Spanish, reportedly understood every word and was devastated by the disrespect. Boxing insiders claim Whitaker obsessed over this fight for years, watching the tape repeatedly and pointing out every round he'd won. He allegedly told close friends that Chavez was protected by corrupt judges and that Mexican fighters got favorable treatment. The animosity ran so deep that Whitaker supposedly refused to attend any event where Chavez was being honored, viewing the Mexican's continued success as a personal insult to his own legacy and superior boxing skills. 3. Felix Trinidad. Number 3 brings us to the most politically charged rivalry in Whitaker's career, Felix Tito Trinidad, the Puerto Rican powerhouse, whose 1999 victory allegedly ended more than just Whitaker's unification dreams. This wasn't just a fight, it was a cultural and political statement. Trinidad represented Puerto Rican boxing pride at its peak, backed by the island's massive fan base and Don King's promotional machine. Whitaker, meanwhile, was the aging craftsman trying to prove that skill could overcome youth and politics. The buildup was reportedly venomous. Trinidad's camp allegedly spread rumors that Whitaker was washed up and living off past glory. More damaging were the supposed whispers that Whitaker's defensive style was un-American and that he didn't deserve to represent the United States against Puerto Rico's golden boy. Whitaker's response was allegedly devastating. Sources claim he told reporters that Trinidad was a manufactured champion protected by corrupt promoters and biased judges. He supposedly said that Trinidad wouldn't last 3 rounds with the real champions I've faced. The September 18th, 1999 fight at Madison Square Garden became a nightmare for Whitaker. Trinidad's relentless pressure and youth overwhelmed the aging master, leading to a unanimous decision victory. But what allegedly haunted Whitaker wasn't just the loss, it was the aftermath. Boxing insiders claim Whitaker believed the fight was politically motivated, designed to crown a new Latin star at his expense. He allegedly told close associates that they didn't just beat me, they buried me, and that the Puerto Rican boxing establishment had stolen his legacy. The bitterness reportedly lasted until Whitaker's tragic death in 2019, with him never fully accepting Trinidad's victory as legitimate. 2. Oscar de la Hoya. Number 2 reveals boxing's ultimate generational clash, Oscar de la Hoya, the golden-gloved poster boy who allegedly represented everything Whitaker despised about modern boxing's commercialization. This rivalry wasn't born in the ring. It was forged in boardrooms and television studios. De la Hoya was boxing's new marketing darling, the handsome Olympic champion who could sell pay-per-views to casual fans. Whitaker, meanwhile, was the pure technician whose defensive brilliance didn't translate to mainstream appeal. The tension reportedly exploded during their April 12, 1997 encounter at Thomas and Mack Center. Leading up to the fight, De La Hoya's promotional team allegedly portrayed Whitaker as a fading veteran, standing in the way of boxing's future. HBO's coverage supposedly emphasized De La Hoya's youth and power, while downplaying Whitaker's technical superiority. Whitaker's response was allegedly scathing. He reportedly told boxing writers that De La Hoya was manufactured hype and that pretty boys don't last when they face real fighters. More damaging, he supposedly claimed that De La Hoya's handlers were protecting him from real competition and building him up with hand-picked opponents. The fight itself became a controversial split-decision victory for De La Hoya, with many observers believing Whitaker had done enough to win. Boxing insiders claim Whitaker was devastated not just by the loss, but by what it represented, the sport choosing marketability over merit. Sources close to Whitaker say he never got over this defeat, viewing it as the moment when boxing officially abandoned its respect for pure skill in favor of commercial appeal. 1. Ike Quartey. Number 1 takes us to the most vicious and personal rivalry of Whitaker's career. Ike Bazooka Quartey, the relentless Ghanaian warrior who allegedly turned their professional encounter into a psychological bloodbath that scarred both fighters forever. This wasn't just about boxing styles, this was pure, unadulterated hatred. Quartey, with his thunderous right hand and African warrior mentality, represented the antithesis of everything Whitaker stood for. While Sweet Pea relied on finesse and intelligence, Quartey came to destroy with raw power and intimidation. The build-up to their July 12, 1997 encounter was reportedly unlike anything the boxing world had ever seen. Quartey allegedly told African media that Whitaker was a coward who runs from real fighters, and that he would expose this fake champion to the world. More damaging, sources claim Quartey made personal attacks about Whitaker's family and background, crossing lines that even hardened boxing veterans found shocking. Whitaker's response was allegedly nuclear. He reportedly told reporters that Quartey was a savage who doesn't belong in civilized boxing, and that they should send him back to where he came from. The racial undertones made boxing officials nervous, with some allegedly trying to cancel the fight due to the toxic atmosphere. The actual fight became a war of attrition, with Quartey's pressure overwhelming Whitaker's aging legs. But what allegedly haunted Whitaker wasn't just the unanimous decision loss, it was Quartey's post-fight celebration, where he supposedly mocked Whitaker's signature defensive moves and called him finished. Boxing insiders claim this defeat broke something inside Whitaker that never healed, representing the moment when his legendary career truly began its tragic decline. There you have it, the 6 fighters who allegedly brought out the worst in Sweet Pea Whitaker. Love him or hate him, you can't deny his greatness. Drop a comment with your favorite Whitaker moment and smash that like button. Subscribe for more boxing secrets they don't want you to know.